Okay, this is a video tutorial for the loveys from My Petite Fleur Designs. To cut this is doing the 6x10. To cut the fabric, I just lay it on my cutting mat, and then I cut 24 to 24 because this is a 6x10. You cut your two pieces, whatever you want on the top, whatever you want on the bottom. I'm doing brown in this, and we'll head over to the machine and start the next step. Okay, here's the next step. We're going to do the bow. So I do matching bobbin and top thread. On the bow, we're going to do hoop your stabilizer. It's going to do a placement stitch. Okay, now there is the next step. Okay, remove this from the hoop. Okay, you're going to place a piece over the top, then you're going to flip it over and you're going to secure also a piece on the bottom. Let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, now that we have it secured on the top and on the bottom, you're going to put it back in the machine. And it's going to do a tack down stitch. This is where making sure the bottom thread matches the top thread. It looks nice on both sides. Once it's done doing this, you're going to remove the hoop from the machine, and then you're going to trim around this on the top and the bottom. I'll do that and be right back. Okay, got it all trimmed. We're going to put it back in the machine. It's going to do the little decorative crease in the bow. Okay, now it's going to do the final satin stitch around the outside of the bow, and then we'll be able to pull it right outside of the hoop. I'll go ahead and let that finish the satin stitch and show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, it has finished stitching. We're going to pull it off the machine. Okay, this is why I do the front and back with the same bobbin thread, because they look identical on both sides. We're going to set this off to the side because it won't come into play until we're done with the lovey. You can add a snap right here in the center and it'll just snap right onto the lovey. I will load the ears, which is your next step, and I will be right back. Okay, I have the ears loaded for the 5x7 hoop. And you're going to put the hoop in. Oh, let me change my bobbin and top thread color right quick and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Now that I have the correct bobbin thread and the colored thread in, we're going to do the very first stitch for the ears is going to be a placement stitch so that you know where to put your fabric. Okay, put my piece of double-sided tape to secure my fabric over those stitches. And you want your fabric to be pretty side up at this point. Okay, now that we have that down, now it's going to do the tack down for the left side. And it's going to come over and do the tack down for the right side. Okay, it's going to do now the placement stitch for the inner ear on both sides. Let me go ahead and do that to save time on the video so it's not so long, and I'll be right back. Okay, it has done the placement so I know where to stick the inner ear fabric. I'm just going to do this side first. Let me flip it over. Tack it down into place. And then come to the other ear. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and then I'm going to trim around the edge of the inner ear fabric only. Once I have all that done, I will be back. Okay, we've trimmed around just the center part of the ear. You put it back on the machine, and it's going to do a satin stitch around the outside of the inner ear on both sides. When that's done, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so you can see it's done the satin stitch all the way around both sides of the ear. When that's done, and you don't have to worry about the opening right here, the raw edges, because that will be tucked in between the two layers on the head. So the last step is to do the back piece. You want to put this pretty side down on top of pretty side, just like that, and then we're going to kind of hold it and not tag it in place just for video purposes. I'll let the other side finish and I'll come back and show you. Okay, it has finished it, so we are gonna remove it from the hoop. We're gonna remove all of the tearaway, and I'll trim around them, and I'll come right back and show you what they look like. Okay, once you get the ear all trimmed out, you're gonna turn them inside out. And remember, you're not worried about this raw edge because it will actually be sewed on the lovey's head underneath the main part of the lovey. So I have to switch to the other machine and get all set up. I'll be back and we'll start the head process. Okay, we're on the other machine and we're going to start with the head. The first step on here is to do the placement stitch to know where to put your main fabric. It's going to stitch that all out, and I'll put my fabric over it and be right back. Okay, placement stitch is done. You're going to put your fabric right side up in the hoop. You can use spray adhesive, double-sided tape, which is normally what I do. Make sure that it's in place. And we're going to go ahead and let it do the tack down stitch for that part, and we'll be right back. Okay, it is now done doing the tack down stitch on the outside face. Now it's going to do a placement stitch to place your inner fabric for the lighter color of the face. And you probably should, I'm not going to do it for video purposes, but on your inner fabric, it probably wouldn't be a good bad idea if you put the iron on the, what is it called? The heat and bond on the back of this. That way you can actually iron it to this to hold it in place so it doesn't get wrinkly or anything like that. But I'm not going to do it for video purposes. We're just going to leave it just liquid knit fabric. Once this is done doing the placement stitch, so you know where to place this fabric, you're going to place this fabric over it. And then it's going to do a tack down stitch. I will do that and I'll be right back and show you. Okay, once we get the tack down part done, you're going to trim around the edge of this so that it can do the satin stitch. I'll go ahead and trim and do the satin stitch around it, and I will show you what it looks like. Okay, we're starting the satin stitch around the edge of the inner face on this cute little monkey. I will let that go ahead and do the satin stitch. I'll show you what the satin stitch looks like when it gets all done. So give me a few minutes and I'll be back. Okay, we have the satin stitch, and I don't know why this light's being retarded again. Okay, we have the satin stitch done. For this next part, I really suggest that you put your layer of WSS over the top to keep your stitches from sinking into the fabric. So I will go ahead and put, yes, I use double-sided tape for everything. It's probably be a little neater if I didn't have it in the hoop. Let me fix it and I'll be right back. Okay, got it trimmed up. Now we can add our WSS on the top and pull it over nice and taut. There we go. I'll make sure that it's nice and tight over the fabric to hold it in place. We are going to move on to the next step. I don't know why I cut that. We're going to move on to the next step, and it's going to do the little part of his nose. For the most part of this, I think I'm going to just do the stitch the face out to save on time for the video so that there's not like a 2-hour-long video. So I'll go ahead and stitch the design face on there. Once the face is all stitched out and everything, I'll show you guys what it looks like, and then we'll move on to doing the ear placement. Be back. Okay, now that our face is stitched out, the next step that it's going to do a placement stitch to show you where to place the ears. The ears, when they go on, this point is going to be at the top. So this one would be for the right side, and then this one would be for the left side, so that when you unfold it, the ears will pop out and they will be right. So let's go ahead and do that tack down stitch, or that placement stitch for this ear. Okay. I'm a Scotch tape person. I want to look at the ear and make sure that I put the Scotch tape so that I know it needs to go here. Get down there. That one. Get the other ear ready. Okay, darn it. Stay. Okay. I'm going to put, you're going to line this up. You want to make sure that piece under there, you can see it? This is that open inner ear piece. You need to make sure that it is on this side of the line so when it stitches, it seals that closed. So we're going to stretch it out. Make sure it's there. And tape it down. Okay. Oops. Let me adjust it. There we go. I use tape. It just works for me, so that's what I use. And I don't like that placement, so I'm going to lift my foot and move that part. I would definitely take your time when you are doing the placement of the ears so that they look good. Okay, that's better. Now it'll stitch right over the top. Okay, it'll move over to the other side. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the placement stitch so that I know where to put this piece. And again, take your time on the ears. I'm going to put this one on and I'll be right back. Okay, our ears are in place, and now you're going to take your final piece of fabric. You want pretty side down over the top of this. Make sure you get those little ears in. And you really should secure this in place, but for video's sake, I'm just going to hold it and go with it. You really should secure this in place and not hold it, but for video's sake, it's faster for me just to hold it in place. And yes, my machine is set at the slowest speed that it'll stitch. For me, it just works better than having it going a million miles an hour. So, sorry if this takes forever. after it's done doing this, you'll remove the hoop, pull it out of the hoop, remove the tearaway on the back of it, turn it right side out, remove the WSS, and then we get to move on to the triangle parts of the lovey. So I will do that and I will be right back. Okay, we have trimmed it. Make sure you leave this down here. Do not cut this even. It just makes it easier to place it in the lovey here in a second. Anyway, you're gonna grab and turn your cute little bear, or your cute little monkey, right side out. Grab your WSS and rip it off. Okay, I need to get set up so that we can get to sewing the lovey. Give me a few minutes and I'll be right back. I guess this is a good time to mention before we move on, if you're going to add the bow with a snap, it's probably easier to do it now, to poke the little snap through, because you can squeeze this in the pliers to put the snap in place. That way for later on you could just snap her little bow on her. So I'll put that on there and be right back. I'm trying to show you the best I can. The lighting is not that great. I've put my fingers inside her little head. I've poked the snap through and then put the top part on, and this should fit just perfect. Let me get this one hand. Okay, it should fit just fine in this cradle. A little hard to do with my camera in the way. Anyway, squeeze it in there, so now you have a permanent snap in her little head. And I did that one dark just so it doesn't like stand out whenever it's not in there. And then I'll add the little orange snap to this one, or a white snap, and when we snap it on, she'll be good to go. So that's just showing how to do it. You can do it, you know, anywhere you want on her head, but you just stick your fingers through with the part of the snap that has the prong, the pointy piece, stick it up through here, poke it through here, and then you can pinch this whole thing to pinch the snap on so that it doesn't show through, and it's not on the back, it's actually on the inside. So let's get to the other part of the lovey. Be right back.